Yeah, boy, it's August 24th, and it's episode 165, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer Podcast is the official podcast of thefantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website dedicated to fantasy football auctions. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Fantasy Auction. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight, we are going to help you find some of those late values, some discounts. I labeled this thing coupon clipping. Just thought about my mother-in-law was always clipping coupons to get deals, so we're going to give you guys deals tonight. Yeah, I brought up my mother-in-law on a fantasy football podcast. Sorry, boys. We also have a few Twitter questions as well. But, of course, our analysts, they're always here. He's just putting in the last-minute prep for our big road trip for the big draft, the commish. Slim, how's it going tonight?
It's going good. It's coming up on the trip. I'm looking forward to it. Trying to pull my weight here around the house as much as I can so that it softens the blow of being gone for a night, but with a new baby in the house. So hopefully I come home and I don't have to walk around on eggshells all day Sunday, but I don't care. I'm looking forward to it, man.
It's all good. We're home by noon or whatever. Anyways, it's not so bad.
Yeah, it won't be too bad, I don't think.
Yeah. All right, and he's doing some last-minute prep for another auction that Blister and I will both be in as a co-franchise in the EBL. Blister, how's it going tonight?
Excellent, man. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of prepping lately, getting pretty excited about the draft coming up. And I was talking to some person today about his draft, and it just made me couldn't wait to get doing this, and I wish I didn't have obligations tomorrow night so that I could be drafting then as well. But no, I'm ready. I think I'm ready. I just keep adding a little bit more information to my sheet. It's getting better and better all the time. So let's get at her.
Well, I'm fired right up when I was sending on the line app about, are we potting tonight? Are we doing this and blah, blah, blah. Like all of a sudden I can feel it's the weekend for me. Anyways, I'm finishing up an MFL 10. I did a 2X just because I wanted to just see where values were out there. So I'm just wrapping that up. Oh my God, the auto picks that are going on, it's killing me. I don't know if we'll get it finished in time for the regular season. I used my purse winnings from last year in the Data Force fantasy football with Faguzzi and those guys. So I had a little bit of money left from the unbelievable comeback or lack thereof from my team, Blister, last year. I had that League One. And anyways, I'm in a email draft there. It's interesting. It's not like an MFLE draft. It's you nominate guys, and then at 10 o'clock in the morning, boom, you can see where the top bid is. And then the live action goes on one player at a time, every hour on the hour. You have an hour to go and an hour to go. So it makes it exciting all day long because you're like, oh, man, I can't wait for this guy. Boom. And then you start putting some bids on and another guy. Boom. So it's kind of fun that way. It gives you still that little bit of live action. Then we got the draft tomorrow night, Blister. And then we got the big draft on Saturday night. It's a good time of year, boys.
Yeah, absolutely, Bucks. It's a lot of fun, and I think after that, if we got a draft on the 4th, I have 2. On the 6th, I have another one. And then I think who knows? Oh, unless you set up the old couples league that you did last year too, we would have that one still yet too.
So lots of stuff going on. Yeah, I know. I've been getting hounded for that. So, Slim, on that note, I did some reconnaissance, and it was Blister that won the league last year.
That's right.
There you go. You're right. You nailed it.
Yeah.
So, the other exciting thing is we're just seeing memberships and Patreon site subscriptions just flying, getting a notification all the time about guys who are getting ready for their draft and getting stuff and downloading stuff, and it's awesome. So if you're looking for a membership to our site, we've got quite a few articles on there that are for members only. You can see some snips of it on the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. For $14.95, you can get auction-only content. It also gives you access to all of our spreadsheets. So the auction value sheet, which is like the vital piece of information, 300 plus guys and their auction values with our consensus rankings and our value indicator to let you know if he's a deal or not. That's on there. Blister's tiers, the stuff that he's using live as he changes and tweaks his. You're getting the latest version on our website. Slim's tiers, doesn't tweak them a whole lot after he posts them, but they're posted just from last week, so they're fresh. My cheat sheet's on there with my tiers and all my fancy color coding and whatever I bring into the draft. That's all there. So $14.95 gets you all that goodness. If you want to be a patron, go to just go to our website, click the big orange button that says become a patron, and you can get access there. Well, let's see. Hold on. For $1, you can just say, hey, thanks a lot for doing a podcast like Faguzi did for us a couple weeks ago. Awesome. For $5, you can just download the spreadsheets. Those four I was just talking about. And I mean, hey, we threw it out there and some guys are looking at it on the site right now, and maybe you need it for your draft coming up. Become an auctioneer. Go over to the site and click on that link and see what becoming an auctioneer can get you. Blister's been working close with a guy right now, helping him get ready for his draft. Actually just got off a phone call, Blister, with him.
Yeah, it was good talking to Scott, and hopefully he's kicking butt in that draft right now. I can't wait to see how the team turns out. So it'll be good to hear. I hope it goes well.
So if you do go to the Patreon site or even on our website, listen, you're going to be able to click a link to get to these spreadsheets. It's going to open up in like a Google viewer. All right. And it's real simple, just like any kind of word processor. You click on file. All right. And then you can download the sheet. It's pretty simple. You can download it as an Excel spreadsheet if you want to do that. You can save it to your own Google Drive if you're using that. You can download it as a PDF. There's lots of different ways that you can get this stuff into your hands. So you can download it in like 5 or 6 different ways. So click file, download as, and then do with it what you want. Do all your own editing, create all your own tiers. Those are all the things that we advocate. That's how you can use it. So website for the membership, Patreon for the spreadsheets and more. Thanks so much for all the support out there. It's been a lot of fun talking to guys getting ready for their draft. That was a long plug. Okay, you guys ready?
Let's do this.
Yeah? All right, if you guys are ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. All right, so like I said, we got a good show tonight. We're going to talk about some values and discounts for your auction draft. But first, we're going to answer some Twitter questions. Ooh, we just got a letter? Anyways, just keeping that in mind. I might get shunned by some iTunes reviews if I play the infamous Blues Clues. Mother-in-law Blues Clues in the same podcast, guys. Anyways, here's some questions. Let's just talk about them. We just posted 4 here. The first one is from @DrinkPacifico. He asks, if I go wide receiver heavy, who are some late running backs that you think can break out? Did he list that, Slim, or was that part of your list?
No, that's all part of his question.
Okay, so part of his question also, who's going to be this year's Melvin Gordon, Blunt, Jordan Howard, or Ajayi, who pumped a couple TDs tonight, I may add. So, Slim, let's start with you. Who do you think are going to be some RBs this year that he could hit?
Well, I think if I kind of break it down player by player, some late running backs, we'll talk about a lot of them coming up. But if I think of an Ajayi, a kind of guy who's in a timeshare that could emerge with some increased workload for whatever reason, I immediately think of 2 guys, Tevin Coleman, Derrick Henry. To me, yeah, those guys are super talented. They're just only thing holding them back is another talented running back there. They can somehow get consistent playing time. They should be able to produce. Somebody kind of in the Melvin Gordon light, guy with high draft pedigree. With him, he kind of disappointed his first season, broke out his second. I look at maybe guys like Dalvin Cook or Joe Mixon this year, guys that were drafted fairly high with big expectations maybe looming for their teams. Somebody like LeGarrette Blount, I think, kind of this goal line hammer. Jumps guy I think of as Perrine in Washington. He's got Kelly there, who isn't, he's kind of just an average type running back. So if Perrine can carve out this niche on the goal line and maybe even more so, then I think that offense should have enough red zone opportunities that Perrine should be fairly valuable. And, then Jordan Howard, I think, is some late round or later drafted kind of players, some guys that I kind of gravitate to, Hunt in Kansas City, Marlon Mack in Indy, and maybe a guy like DeAndre Washington in Oakland. I think they're kind of in running back by committees right now, but there's not necessarily anybody, super talented ahead of them that could be, by week 8, by week 10, those guys could all have carved out kind of the RB1 role in that offense. And all those offenses could be, fairly viable. So I think those guys definitely have some maybe RB1 upside in the second half of the season.
Nice. Blister, a couple of names that I like that he mentioned, Coleman and Derrick Henry. I like that on their own, even in the committee, they're valuable. They're going to give you some RB2 floors, but with an injury and an opportunity, they're going to be really high ceiling guys at RB1. Is there anybody that Slim didn't mention, Blister, that you'd be looking at in this situation? Wide receiver heavy RBs?
Yeah, Slim was pretty thorough there. Every time he kept talking, I kept, that's my guy. So, yeah, and, I like to point out, too, like, when you do something like that, I like to think back to a couple of years ago when, a guy like David Johnson, I had him, and he was riding the bench for a while behind Chris Johnson. But, we knew the potential could be there, and so I kind of sat on him. When he got his chance to play, he pretty much rode me to the championship. So there are guys like Slim mentioned that are out there. I like what he said, like Marlon Mack and Samaje Perine and Kareem Hunt. Those are guys that I think would be in that similar situation. You might have to sit on them for 5 or 6 weeks, but other guys too, Jonathan Williams in Buffalo, I just worry kind of overall about that offense in the sense that they got rid of Sammy, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with LaShawn. I hope he stays put, but I think at some point, if Jonathan Williams gets a chance, I think he could do that. He could be a big back for you. And I guess the only other couple guys are Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones in Green Bay. If Ty Montgomery, something happened to him, those are the next guys up. It's hard to say which one it'll be right now, but they do have for running backs a good strength of schedule. They have the 28th easiest strength of schedule for running backs. So, those guys there too could be someone to keep an eye on. And I think, in those terms of guys that are going to take you to the championship, they have the potential, those guys there. So Slim had a pretty thorough job, and those are just a few names I might add to that.
Good additions, Blister. Hey, I'm going to go to you for the next one. At Alheiser Adam, any advice on Odell Beckham? How much with the new injury? Like, what are your concerns there with this injury and that ankle? Blister, what do you think about Odell? What's his value?
He does worry me. Out of the top 5 receivers, I kind of was shying away from Odell this year. I had him on my team last year, and I felt more frustration over the course of the season than I did, happy to have him. So he worries me with that ankle. He can. What worries me too is he can go into a sad pouting spree at times and be whiny and and really produce like nothing at all. And so that kind of worries me as well. Odell's game is going to depend on Eli. Eli's got a fairly tough schedule, 10th toughest schedule. Odell's schedule is 19th, so he's middle of the pack, but it's not terrible. I worry. I because when a guy that's going to cost you over $50, I don't think it's easy to spend when you go in there with some kind of doubt in your mind. So I'm probably, I know I'm steering clear of Odell Beckham.
Slim, anything to add there? God, I just hated when I watched him get hurt and then he walks off and he's in the
I'm
hallway.
not going to comment on any of
No one's around, and no, my ankle, is that a camera?
The mannerisms. Yeah, I don't want to go there.
Anyway, Slim, anything else outside of that to add?
I think our listeners might love this. We're saying Quad, he's going to love this. I actually kind of completely disagree with Blister because until I know more about that injury, I'm not that worried about it. I think if he misses one game, that's nothing for me. AJ Green will probably, could easily miss a game. He gets nicked up. Julio's the same. So I'm hoping now. My question is he a value? Right now he's at $59. That's pretty steep. I get it if you like him. For me, other than Antonio Brown, he is right up there with Julio, AJ Green's kind of right underneath him for me in terms of three guys that I think are on the cusp of really like a really monster fantasy season. I just think that things could be shaping up for 1 year, especially if Marshall can stay there, maybe next year. There's enough receivers finally there in New York to maybe take some of that pressure off of Odell and let him see a little more single coverage. So like for him to get like a 1,600 reception or a yard reception season with, 17 touchdowns or something stupid like that, I honestly don't think that's necessarily out of the question one of these years. So if I could get him for $50, I would jump all over that. Because I think some guys will be scared of that injury, and could be rightly so. I mean, my thing with ankle injuries is they can linger, man. And that's the last thing you want is some lingering injury like that. So he's got to bounce back. I like the fact that he was running around and it made it look all good and everything like that. Because I think that's more the case than him laying on the floor, digging his fingernails into the flooring there at the stadium.
Now, Slim, I know you. You're gonna walk into a draft though, and you're gonna bring that up, man. Like he actually looked really hurt there. Like I don't think that was a show. You're gonna play that up pre-draft and then
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, I think Roto World did a good job. Well, I think you could for sure. I think Roto World kind of did some of that for us by posting this article. I'll just say, like, we were at playing our baseball final the other night, having some drinks after. Yeah, we did. So we had some beers, and then a couple guys in our team, we were sitting around having drinks, and their phone goes off. Oh, Odell is going to miss some time with this injury. And of course that became the topic of conversation. And we started making fun of certain things that he did and has done in the past and whatever. But I think it's already there. People are thinking about that a lot. And we'll see kind of how the rest of training camp goes. I mean, I don't think, obviously we're not seeing him in any more preseason games. So we know that for a fact, but I'm definitely going to be watching for a value because I really don't worry if he misses one. If he's missing 3, then I probably, like Lister said, going to maybe look to pass. But again, if he goes for cheap enough, then everybody's buyable. But with 3 games, I think somebody's still going to want to pay fairly close to market value. That's going to take me out of the bidding.
Well, Slim, I'm going to let you know we had a lot of giggles over here. Shout out to Sean Mahoney. He's watching us live. One of the guys in our ECL league. He is commenting about if Blister rubs his head anymore, he may run out of. Oh, whoops! He already did that. Run out of hair. He was giving me a shout out for my laundry room sink, which I think has become a staple to the studio now. So shout out to Mahoney. We're giggling here while you're talking. I don't think Blister heard one word that he said about Beckham because he was too busy laughing and texting. So
I could hear something and I didn't know.
I tried to mute it, but I pressed the wrong button. Just like when I was sniffling. Shit. Yeah. Oh, well.
So Slim, let's just go back to you anyways because I want to hear your response to this. To this tweet. I just want to because it was tweeted at you, so it's good. At Eric Schaefer asks, do you think Philly's DST will be quote unquote elite?
First of all, I wanted to ask you, and this is a serious question, I guess.
Ask me or ask him?
No, you. Do we have on our podcasts, do we have like an advisory for any explicit language or anything ever?
I normally don't have an explicit I don't normally click that little button, but I could today if you want me to.
No, I just know that sometimes I like to. I don't, you guys know me. I like to speak maybe a little bit too freely in a casual setting like this. Anyway, I was just curious about that. It made me think. So to answer this question, get the fuck out of here, man. Like, I don't even know what this means. Elite. And I say this tongue in cheek. I said this on Twitter too to some guys. It's tongue in cheek. I mean, Eric's been in some mock drafts with us and stuff. He's a good guy. He's a good follow. Yeah. He's, so
yeah, he's an active member of our auction.
Oh, for sure.
Yes,
for sure, man. He's a good guy. From
so he'll
the stuff that
appreciate
he's done
that
with
comment.
us.
Yeah.
Maybe you won't. I don't know. So I'm going to try and backpedal a little bit. But that was my first instinct when I read it. I was like, are you serious? Really? First of all, elite. I don't even know what that means. Like, are we talking about 85 Bears and, stuff like that? Or are we just talking about, like, are they a top 5 defense in 2017? It's like that whole, joke about quarterbacks. Is this quarterback elite? But, and then we're talking about DST, which to me, as you guys know, I know we've talked about this. Like, I refuse to do our rankings of DST. I think I finally deleted them off the web page because no one was doing them except for Blister, because I find them a waste of time. And as I said on Twitter to somebody, like, I don't even play in any leagues anymore that have DSTs or kickers. So it's made me just completely like wipe them off my radar. I now really don't have to give a shit about them. So Blister, I want you to answer this question because I didn't even know what to say.
I think he just threw that out there just to piss you off and get you going.
I think so.
But I
saw the quotations.
I hope he has another good one next week.
Like, okay.
Kicker question next
week. This could be very well be a joke. I don't even know.
Kicker question. I don't know. Philadelphia, I've had them as a DST a couple times. I think I might have had them in the ECL even last year. And
Hicks, baby.
It depends. I guess it all depends on the scoring in a sense. Like, it's hard to say. I think our scoring might have been a little bit more, but I'm looking at stats from FF today. I like to go there for my stats. And they finished 8th last year. Only 20 points less than the first place Vikings, according to this one. But the thing is, they only had 92 fantasy points. However, that scoring worked out. So I don't think anybody that gets 92 or 100 fantasy points is elite. This year, who knows? They're ranked about the middle of the pack. I would. To me, elite is going to be somebody that stands out a lot above the rest, and I can't see that happening with Philadelphia's D. So I'll say no.
Well, and the bigger question is, even if they're elite or not elite, so does that mean you spend $2 on them? Like, really, that's the you know what I mean? Like, that's the question, right? Like,
exactly.
It's not a big auction question. So, do you think they're going to be elite? Like, should I put a $2 entry bid on them? Like, I don't know what. Like,
no.
Anyway, no, you shouldn't. You should take the Bills defense. This is my recommendation. Pick the Bills defense because they play the Jets week 1, and then stream the next week whoever plays the Jets, and then stream the next week whoever plays the Jets. That's how you play a defense, and it's exactly what you do. So pick the Bills and sit on them because no one's going to take them anyways. So sit on them at the end of your draft. Nominate them for a buck. Take them. Play the Jets, dump them. I don't know who the Jets play week 2, but then pick up that defense on the waiver. Done. I just completed all the DST auction info that you need.
There you go.
That's
all right.
Sound advice too.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, honestly. Anyways, okay. So next question, Blister. Let's go to you. This is at Justin0917. I think it's his birthday. First of all, that's the first part of the question. You think that he was the 17th of September is his birthday?
Could be.
I don't like. Yeah, I can't think that there was 917 guys before him that picked that handle. So, anyways, just throwing it out there.
Big. Yeah, too big a number to be his hockey number.
Yeah, that's true. So the question is thoughts on Devontae Parker and Stephon Diggs' value. Now, first of all, I love Parker with Jake Cutler. Cutler wants to just bomb it out there, and Parker, he's not afraid to catch it. So, anyways, that's my thought on it. Go, Blister.
Well, I think they got decent value. Stephon Diggs, he's. Well, I think you can get him for under 20, and definitely I think Parker goes for under 20. But what I like about them as well is their strength of schedule. Stephon Diggs is the 29th easiest, and Parker's sitting at the 22nd easiest. And I really think Parker hasn't shown much. He's had flashes, but there's high expectations. And I think this is a year where he's really got to step it up. And I know all signs right now are kind of pointing and hinting and indicating that he's going to go in that direction. Started taking things a little more seriously, started looking after himself a lot more. Stephon Diggs last year, he was pummeled with targets, and he got banged up a bit. But, we have him going for around $16, and there was Devontae way down there, about $7. Now, that's great.
That's
great value for potentially yeah, for a guy that, could become a pretty prominent part of their offense. So I think those are great guys. I mean, I wouldn't want to lead my team. I wouldn't want them being my wide receiver 1, but I'd be happy to have them on my team as my 2 or my 3, perhaps for Parker, maybe a flex position. But I do like their value, both coming in quite comfortably under 20. I think I don't know what'll happen in our league. Like, we have one Viking fan on Saturday. I think he might want him a little bit more. 2?
Don't we? Oh, no.
Klinger?
Ding.
What's Klinger?
Vikings fan.
Does Klinger even like football? I don't even know.
We'll find out.
I heard he's drafting
Dalvin Cook, whatever it costs.
Teddy Two Gloves, I heard, is going to be a starting quarterback. That's how much you know. Anyways, go on.
Anyways, no, I think it's great value right now, current auctions, and with some real good upside there. So I wouldn't mind having either of them on my team.
Absolutely. So, anything to add to that?
I like Parker at $7 right now. Currently, as our AAVs. I like what I've seen so far from preseason. For some reason, he seems to have this rapport with Cutler, and there's like these you see on Twitter talking, oh, this is like the Cutler to Alshon type connection here. And you know what? Maybe Jay will just pump him with targets, and this could be a good thing. We've been waiting to see this athleticism, and he showed glimpses. Hopefully he's, healthy for a season and he can do that. So for $7, if I'm getting him as like a wide receiver 3 or even better off less than that, then that's awesome. With Diggs, I think, we have him kind of consensusly ranked just outside of the as a wide receiver 2, or just outside the wide receiver 2. So I think he's like 27th or something like that on our board consensus. So to get him as kind of a wide receiver 2, I'm not really sold yet. I think there's definite upside. I just don't know about the consistency. And I wouldn't doubt, I'll be honest, if like next year this time he's in the talk as maybe like a new wide receiver 1 kind of thing, like what we saw a couple of years ago when DeAndre Hopkins jumped up. And, so we might just be a year too early, but I think the skills are there. Not necessarily sold on the QB situation, even though I don't mind Bradford. We'll probably get to that a little bit later. So if I can get him for, less than $15, I think that's awesome. Ideally, I want him as a wide receiver 3, though, that I can hopefully he has upside, and then he starts plugging in more into my starting lineup.
Slim, sorry, go, Blister. Go ahead.
Oh, I just was looking at some numbers. He missed 3 games last year, but I think he played banged up a little bit too. But he had 84 grabs. Prorate that through 16, he would have been over 100. Which, if he could do that this year, he could get 100 grabs, 1,000 yards.
Cherry picking those stats, though. I can't. I mean, well, no, that's the one thing I get that, but it's hard to say, I don't know. But I think the talent is definitely there. I'm not going to argue that for a second. I think, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if he's being drafted as like a wide receiver 8 overall next year or something like that. I really wouldn't. But injuries kind of have plagued him a little bit, and a couple little minor red flags. But if he can stay in the field, you're right. I think there is definite high ceiling there to be had.
Slim, we had a question come in from our league member, Sean Mahoney. He wanted to hear your take on rookie values this year. And more importantly, is McCaffrey your highest valued rookie this year?
My highest valued in terms of highest ranked?
Do you value him the highest is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
No.
Not, is he a value?
Is he a value? No, I don't think he's a value. I would still rather have Mixon over him at their current prices. And I guess he's probably the only one, but rookie prices tend to be pretty skewed, I think, oftentimes. Like, I look at McCaffrey, again, we'll get into this later, because I have Jay Stu as a value, pretty considerable value in my opinion. I don't think it's necessarily like he's not just going to come in and get all the touches. I mean, you got to remember there's an offense that has never really shown a propensity to throw to the running back. Are they just going to change that overnight? I don't know. We'll see. But Jonathan Stewart's still going to be there, and I think he's still going to be involved and be getting carries. And I don't know, maybe he gets some goal line work. We'll see. Does he have value? For sure. I like Mixon's upside a little bit more, even though there still seem to be plugging Jeremy Hill. I don't know what the fuck that is, if it's trying to drum up some trade interest or what. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I definitely am skeptical of rookies a lot. Not so much as running back, obviously wide receiver more, but Fournette's another guy. He's still going for just under $40. To me, that's too high in an offense that they don't even know who they got a quarterback. They seem lost. I don't want a running back in that offense that's going to probably have a negative game script just about every week, just like they did a couple of years ago. So, I always say buyer beware with rookies.
Right. Okay, there you go, Sean. There's your answer from Slim. He's kind of talked about rookies before, but there's specifically info for today. So we're talking about values tonight, guys. So let's just get into it. What we're looking for right now is we're going to break down some values at each of the positions. One of the big things here is trying to find guys that are going to either have that big upside or are going for cheaper than where we kind of have them ranked, those types of guys. Because when you're working your budgets and you're in draft and you spend an extra $5, these are the guys you need to fall to. These are the guys you need to have in your back pocket. You have to have the coupons clipped. You need to be ready to roll. You can't be thinking, oh, geez, which guys are on my short list here if my budget goes sideways. You need to have them already dialed in. So, Blister, let's start with you. Why don't you talk to us about a quarterback or two that you think right now are values heading into 2017?
Do I have to talk about the guys you got listed?
No, you do not. On that note, on the website, we have all of our rankings, the consensus rankings. Then it shows you the average auction value, the AAV, which we referred to lots for 10, 12, and 14 team leagues. Then what it also has is something called a value indicator. It's our VI. And it shows from green to red. It has like a rainbow of colors on there. Guys that show up in green are demonstrated as values because where we have them ranked, and let's say somebody's ranked as an RB10, but everyone, the rest of the industry has them as an RB15, then he's a value, right? So that's the auction value and where they are positionally ranked. That's how we can determine if there is a value. So I just highlighted on the show notes a few guys that are bright green on our website. But Blister, obviously, pick thanks are different. Giver.
All right. Well, I think one of the best values this year is Cam Newton. And right now he's going for around $6. And he's a quarterback 2 years ago that was your number one. So last year he was drafted quite high and with high expectations, and he didn't live up to it. Last year he had one of the toughest schedules that he's had probably in his history in the league. 2 years ago when he was the number one, he had one of the easiest schedules in the league. This year, Cam Newton has the second easiest schedule in the league. And I think, with the addition of some of the weapons he has, McCaffrey, guys like that, I think he's going to, some of his points could just come from dumping the ball off to McCaffrey and letting him do all the work. And plus, I think he's still got enough probably pride or ego or whatever you want to say that he's still not going to give the ball up at the goal line all the time. Maybe the odd time, but I think he's still going to get his fair share of end zones touches there. So I think he's one of the better values at only averaging $6 right now. That's one of the guys I like. I think Kirk Cousins, although he has one of the toughest schedules, is going for $2 or $3. That's kind of surprising. I think they're going to throw it quite a bit because that backfield is kind of questionable. And so I think that's another guy that you can sit on. And even Phillip Rivers, although they kind of have a tough schedule, the receivers have the toughest schedule for wide receivers. I still think every year Phillip, I kind of always am down on him, but he always puts up fantasy numbers, and he keeps on producing. So those are all guys that are really cheap that I think that, when you look at the scoring of your league, and we talk about this time and time again, when you look at the scoring of your league, what you'll notice is there's not a real big variance often between the guy that you might pay $35 for in Aaron Rodgers and the guy that you might pay $2 for in Kirk Cousins. Like average points per game might be down to 2 or 3, where as you took that $33 in savings, and that could be your running back too, and right. So that's the biggest thing with quarterbacks. But I think that's some value. Some of the guys that kind of stuck out and surprised me.
Slim, do you have anybody on the QB list that you find a value?
Yes, sir. First off, I want to say we're doing our home draft this weekend, and I hate this because it sucks. Me and Blister kind of talked like, here goes. Like my thought crossed my mind, like, how bad do I want to sandbag some of these assholes? Because I know, like, we're gonna give out, like, because I'm telling you, I'm gonna go on some lists that these are guys that don't necessarily show up on our VI. Because maybe they come from my individual rankings a little bit more than our consensus rankings and stuff. So they might be a little more hidden in terms of that value indicator metric that we use, because they're my own personal values. But I love Andy Dalton this year. Like, he is going to be, I'm expecting big things, man. Like, there's question marks on D. I think their O-line's weak. I think they got negative game scripts a lot. Plus, he's got AJ Green. He's got Eifert. For how long, we don't know. Mixon can catch the ball to the backfield. Gio can catch the ball out of the backfield. Jeremy Hill is hopefully not playing, but and even in their secondary receivers, I don't necessarily mind. Let's see what Tyler Boyd can do. We haven't heard anything from John Ross, but I mean, maybe he's that field stretcher that's good for one big play here and there periodically. So I just think it's going to be a green light for Dalton to maybe throw it around. I've thought this a couple of years ago. He kind of was the ultimate streaming guy, because against like shitty defenses, he can torch them. He has in the past. So I like that, knowing that. I expect him to continue to do that. So he's a guy I'm targeting. You can get him for, $1 or $2. And then Carson Palmer's another guy. He kind of got a bad rap last year. He was playing banged up, but if you look at his numbers from like week 8 on, he had a touchdown in every game, and he only had in 6 of those games, he had at least 2 touchdowns or more. So he was putting up numbers. He had a couple picks here and there, but he was still balancing that out in the touchdown category. Larry Fitzgerald is a freak of nature. I expect a big season from him. Again, he's got his running back in the backfield who's essentially a wide receiver. And then he's got some other talented receivers. Like, I like J.J. Nelson. I'm hoping Jerron Brown gets healthy, because I like him when he is. So there's also these secondary receivers that aren't too bad. These are 2 very cheap guys that I just think we should all be streaming. And if we are, these 2 guys have to be on your radar. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of $1 and $2 guys that you can plug and play. I mean, maybe not in the 2 QB league, which makes it a little bit different. But if we're looking at AAVs right now, you could spend $4 on Stafford and Rivers. Let's say, Stafford finishes in the top 10 every year, and we just talked about Phillip Rivers. That's $4. And I think that you're gonna, if you play the matchup right week in and week out, you're gonna be a top 10 quarterback on any given week. So again, just proves the advocating for that quote unquote late round quarterback mentality.
Yeah, man.
Anyways, let's move. So that's quarterbacks. And I think we've talked to death about the cheap guys that we like. Let's move on to running backs, guys. Blister. Our value indicators talk about some big guys like Crowell and Montgomery and Ty Montgomery, because we've got them ranked 10 and 11 right now in our consensus rankings, but they're going for cheap compared to what a RB 10 and 11 should go for. Our VI right now is like minus 11 on them, and that means it's $11 savings. That's as good as it gets outside of, Larry Fitz, so we'll talk later, but I think it's about as good as it gets. Who else do you add on this list, Blister? Or you could talk about those 2 if you want.
No, I think they are pretty good value. I like that you got Amir Abdul on there too. We haven't seen much out of Amir Abdul yet, so his price is staying quite low. Probably get him always for under $15, but he has the potential to outproduce that quite handily. Other guys too that I think, like, one of the things that I think when we look at value, you look at what their potential is. But one of the scary things at running back is they could be a top, 10, 11 running back, and that could be 200 points worse than the top 1 and 2 running back. So it's a little different than at quarterback or maybe even wide receiver when your number 10 running back is significantly further down versus your number 20 running back probably isn't that much different than your number 10. So I think probably when you're really looking at value, you could probably look more so at your guys even further down the list. So when I look at value here and guys I think that are going to produce, either I think I got two opinions. Either I'm going to spend a lot of money on one of the big names, or I'm dropping quite a ways down and I'm looking at guys like maybe LeGarrette Blount or Danny Woodhead, guys like Spencer Ware, Amir Abdullah, guys like that, because I think the difference between them and your 11 and 12 running back isn't as significant as it is between your 11 and 10 and your number 1. But the cost savings is even better. When I look at some of the costs, Abdullah's at 11. We have him at 11. We have Terrence West at $4. They got a great strength of schedule as well. Theo Riddick's cheap, $7. CJ Anderson is going for about $6. Like that, to me, that's the area where the best value is in the running back class this year. If you started your team off with Ware and Abdullah, you might spend $25 and you could fill it up with Doug Martin and guys like that for $7-8. And I think you'd have a pretty strong running back team.
Yeah, for sure. Slim, what do you want to add to that list?
Like you mentioned, Martin. I really honestly, I find myself so on the fence with a guy like him. I watch him in preseason, and maybe probably is actually, now that I think of it, the Hard Knocks kind of thing. It's this, I don't want to call it recency bias necessarily, but he's out there now, and I'm seeing more of him than ever before, probably at this juncture of the season. But I think he looks good, and I just I obviously we don't want to see him miss games, but then we've seen him look good, and then we've seen him look like shit, and I just don't know. I don't know. I have a hard time buying in fully, but so I really don't. I haven't drafted him really anywhere, but he's kind of on my radar, and I usually get too scared to pull the trigger. But definitely a guy I like. Some other guys that Blister mentioned. I mean, I love Terrence West. Danny Woodhead's already got a hamstring injury, which pisses me off because I love Danny Woodhead, but. Dixon, he might not even be any good. Plus, he's missing time. So if West can do anything these first few weeks, Dixon might not even get that much burn. So he can really cut into that. So I think he's a great guy to have if you're grabbing some of these guys that we kind of mentioned earlier, and we'll probably mention again here, that we expect to have a chance to break out near the end of the season. West is a great little kind of bridge to get to those guys for the end of the year. He's going to get a lot of snaps early on. Hopefully, in weeks 5, 6, he still gets a few. And then by then, hopefully, maybe you don't even care anymore because you've hit on a couple of these later guys and they're starting to emerge. And now you're just rolling the hot hand and recycling and grabbing someone off waivers, whatever it might be. Jay Stu for $6, a guy that I like. I love Christian McCaffrey as a talent. I just don't know exactly how much they're going to use him. So for $6, he's dirt cheap. Yeah. Darren Sproles, I'm really loving for $3. Like LeGarrette Blount is trash. Yeah. Who's the other? Sorry, Wendell Smallwood has apparently looked pretty bad in pass protection. So he might not see the field that much. Donnell Pumphrey has looked brutal, and I think he's like maybe their 5th running back on their depth chart right now. I thought I saw Evan Silva tweet something tonight. So like he might not even make a roster. I don't even know. Like Darren Sproles to me is a guy who could like be the steal of this year's draft, man, in PPR leagues. And I will say this is all for PPR too. So
yeah, right.
Then I get into these kind of $1 guys. Like we mentioned DeAndre Washington in Oakland. I like Hunt and Casey. I like Mack in Indy. I even like Alvin Kamara for $1 in New Orleans. These guys, I think, are guys that could have the opportunity to start carving out a role more and more and more as the season progresses for various reasons. Like I don't trust Marshawn Lynch's back per se. Like he already retired once. He had back issues. I I just went for massage today because my back is messed up. Like, back injuries are no joke. I don't think so. Do I really want running back? Like, do I really want to draft Lynch as a guy who's loves to just lower his head and initiate contact with a bad back? I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to hold up for 16 games. P. Ryan, we talked about. He's maybe a little more than a buck, but he could carve out that goal line role. I love Shane Vereen because I think the rest of the Giants running backs are hot garbage. So to me, he's got the easiest way to a consistent niche in that offense. And I think they're going to pass it quite a bit. So he's by far, to me, their best pass receiver out of the backfield. And then I go to even guys like Rex Burkhead and D'Angelo Henderson now. Rex, only because
it's a sweet name.
He's the cheapest guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the cheapest guy in that offense. Like, I'm never going to buy Mike Gillislee at what he costs right now. Because why would I pay $20, $25 for a running back in a New England offense? Like, Bill Belichick is just going to go game script dependent. And to me, Burkhead has the versatility. He can do everything. So if Dion Lewis is going to be banged up and maybe not play, you could put him out in the field, and he finally gives the Patriots for a long time a guy that can disguise the looks of what they want to do. Like last year when Blunt went out, you knew it was going to be a run. So now you can put a guy like Burkhead out there, and it allows the offense to do so much more. So I think for a buck, I want that versatility. And D'Angelo Henderson's kind of maybe this hotter name that's creeping up, but look at the guys ahead of him. CJ Anderson is, other than a stretch a couple of years ago in the second half of the season that won Blister Dynasty League, and I traded him to him for nothing. I think now that I look back, it was shit. I got ripped off now that I look back on
Now he's mad.
You owe me a beer this weekend. No, I never get mad on shit. But then he's got Jamal Charles, who's old and coming off a knee injury, and Devontae Booker just broke his hand. And now this kid's coming into camp and he's just looks electric. So he's just climbing up the depth chart, man. And there's these guys that are dropping like flies ahead of him. It's not out of the question that he can carve out a role there as well. And you're going to get him maybe for free. You could probably maybe even in some drafts pick him up on waivers after the draft, depending on how deep the leagues are. So those are kind of my cheap guys that are flying maybe, I don't want to say under the radar, but they maybe don't show up on our site as dark green value indicator guys. So,
right. But guys, you can target when you need to save a few bucks. Now, speaking of saving a few bucks, what do you guys think about this double? What do you think about spending, I don't know, 15 to 20 bucks on Run DMC and the Muscle Hamster versus doing the same for, I don't know, Carlos Hyde or, Tevin Coleman or somebody in that kind of range? Do you spare the bench spot, hold Dougie on there, run Darren McFadden for a few weeks, and then Dougie comes in and rips it up?
Definitely. I think that goes to the roster construction side. Like, you got to look at if you're drafting a suspended guy, and this would make Zeke kind of a risk. We don't know when he's suspended yet. Like, we don't know if he's missing the first games, the last games. Maybe he misses no games, and you're laughing. But I know, like, our buddy Dave, actually, he's been tweeting me. We've been talking here as we pod, but he was talking the other day on Twitter. Like, he thinks a lot of these Dallas guys are starting to think this could be a Tom Brady type thing where he just appeals it, and maybe he doesn't miss any time this year. If he does, maybe it's next year. So I don't know. But yeah, I think if you're going to draft a suspended guy, you definitely want to look at are these some guys on your roster that you think can emerge as the season goes on? And I think we've tried to give you a good mix tonight. So you should have some names now to really go after.
And guys, on that note, I like Quiz. I think that if you can take the job and you can get him for under $5, like he starts with it, he might just muscle the hamster right out of there, pardon the pun, but and he could be a, I don't know, RB2 anyways for a Finn.
Well, and as soon as somebody goes down, like, he's back in the mix for sure, right? But yeah, definitely good for early season, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's take a look. Blister, let's go into where are we next? Are we on some wide receivers? Yeah. So on again, VI guys that are high in the dark green on the site. We've talked about them before. Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams. Larry Fitz is the number one guy. Willie Snead's number two as far as value indicators across any position. Even Tyrell Williams shows up there as our wide receiver 34 for single digit dollar values. So Blister, what are some guys you're seeing as values or you're willing to spend a couple bucks on with high upside?
Well, I really like what Larry Fitzgerald, like Slim said earlier. I mean, he's going to produce in that offense. He's going to be the main guy. Right now, everybody behind him is kind of questionable or banged up. So I think for $12, that's a steal of a buy. I do like Willie Snead too. He's always going for around that $10 range. I think often it's because everyone's money is spent and they can't afford to go any higher. So I think he could be a pretty good value. He could be also one of the biggest disappointments that there is this year. I'm not quite sure yet. I think that people are probably overlooking Ted Ginn, and I don't like Ted Ginn at all. But he's been around for a while, and if he can establish rapport with Breeze, which I'm sure he has by now, he's going to probably cut into the targets that everyone expects Snead to get. And so I think that. I think I've probably got enough shares of Willie already, but that is a good value. Tyrell Williams, again, another good value. I was actually shopping him in that ECL league when they drafted Mike Williams, and I sent out trade offers to everybody for almost nothing. And then I was kind of glad that nobody was looking at the league site because I read them all back, and I'm kind of glad to have him still on my team. But some other values, I think, too, when you go down the list a bit more, Moncrief at $10 could be a great value as well. Deshaun Jackson, I think at under $7 or $9. Sorry, we talked about Parker. I think even Calvin Benjamin. I mean, I don't like Calvin that much, but he's only $12 now, and he
touchdown tonight.
Pardon? Another touchdown tonight?
Well, Cam threw one to him tonight, yeah.
Wow, just continues to suppress Funchess, hey, Bex?
Yeah, I know. I know.
And if Funchess is still untradeable, I love it. This is good. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's got, how it is. It's like you
I know, man.
Invested,
you want another kid. I offered you my second born, but you just turned it down. So
I don't want another kid. That's fine. Anyway, sorry.
Pierre Garçon, I really like him. He's at $10. Cam Meredith, I don't know about that offense too much, but if he gets the majority of the targets, I mean, even a guy like Robbie Anderson, I kind of put him in the same breath as Cameron Meredith. They're in some pretty futile offenses, but they should be the wide receiver ones with their teams, and so they should command the majority of the targets. They don't really have tight ends on either team, so and quite possibly, like I said, with Robbie Anderson with the Jets, is he might have 1.2 fantasy points for the first three quarters, and he has a potential to get about 12 or 15 in the fourth quarter when they're down by 40, and they just keep throwing it, and the defense is basically in the shower. And you know what? Who cares if they if he gets you those 15 points or something, then you're kind of laughing. It doesn't matter at what point in the game they come. So he could be he could be the king of garbage time this year. Other guys too down in that ballpark.
Slim cripes. Just kidding.
Is that enough?
I got some. Go, buddy.
Okay.
Go.
Well, I kind of wanted to catch up on these scores anyway. So go ahead, Slim.
Okay. Sorry, I've been tweeting old Cherney. He's loving the pod tonight. Actually, he's gonna
shout out to the Road Warrior.
Part of it was he tweeted the first shout out we gave him, so now this will just get him going. Yeah,
get him wound up. Good.
So we've been going back and forth, just joking back and forth here tonight. But so some guys, like, I'm gonna go down a little further down the list. I mean, there's Snead, and I apologize, people. I'm probably the leader in the Willie Snead value right now on our site, because I have him ranked maybe obscenely high. He's my wide receiver 14 right now, which I changed it a couple days ago and kind of bumped him up a little bit and felt pretty good about it. Now I look and I'm like, maybe I don't know what I did that day, but I'm looking at maybe that's a little high. But anyway, to go down a little further, I mean, we talked about Devontae Parker. I think he's a good value, and there just seems to be this connection with Cutler. Jeremy Macklin's a guy for $6 that if he can be the wide receiver one in that offense, I mean, there is a lot of potential targets there. We've talked about this before, man. Like, and he's a good receiver. We forget how good he was because he played with Alex Smith.
Right.
Alex Smith once had a season where no wide receiver in his team caught a touchdown, where he didn't throw a touchdown to a receiver. So, like, I don't know how that happens, but like that masks some of the receiver talent that could be around there. So I think that a guy like Macklin gets overlooked. Kenny Britt's intriguing to me at $3. People are kind of knocking him because he's going to Cleveland, and we don't necessarily expect that offense to do anything real huge. But do we just remember he just put up 1,000 yards playing with Jared Goff, and maybe one of the worst quarterback seasons statistically that we've seen in recent years. So, well,
and let's just remember too, that the Browns just made an ex-quarterback top end receiver too. You know, like they still chuck the ball, they still get garbage time, they still whatever. I mean, if he's the wide receiver one there, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's some I think their defense is going to be improved this year, so I don't know if there's going to be as much gunslinging, but they're still going to have to pass it. I mean, they're still really only probably like a 4-win team, so it's not like they're playing with this with these massive leads all the time. They're not going to be like the Atlanta Falcons from last year or anything. But then if you want to go really, I guess I better mention Randall Cobb before we start going really cheap. I don't know what it is. He's $5. For $5, I'd like to get a little cheaper, but I just feel like he can't be dead yet, can he? Like Devontae Adams, I think, could have some touchdown regression from last year. Jordy Nelson, I think, is still going to be strong, but why can't Cobb get close to 1,000 yards receiving again and get back, into becoming a more reliable receiver? I'd give him one more year if it was me and I can get him for really cheap. Ted Ginn, just to echo Blister, because he's a guy that is the top of my $1 guys. To me, it was like when Deshaun Jackson went to Tampa Bay. Ted Ginn going to New Orleans, it seems like a perfect fit. People harp on drops and things like that. Well, there's a lot of guys that drop the ball in the NFL. Brandon Marshall drops the ball as much as any receiver, and like we put him on a pedestal for many years, and rightfully so, because he still scores fantasy points. And Ted Ginn going to the Saints with Drew Brees airing it out deep. This is what they do, man. Like Ginn is going to be that ultimate boomer bust type guy. And when he's booming, I think he's going to put up some big games. For $1, perfect, like wide receiver 5 or 6. Corey Coleman, same thing. I think we could be maybe a year ahead. I wouldn't be surprised if next year he's like flown up the wide receiver rankings and we're drafting him way, way higher. But for $1, I'll take a flyer on him this year. And just because Zay Jones, I know it's kind of a cliche name.
Oh no!
And I don't even like Zay Jones much. I didn't like him coming out. Like I didn't want to go anywhere near him in our dynasty leagues and stuff. But he's cheap, and there's going to be targets there. So maybe he's a guy like as a $1 guy, you could take a stab at him. JJ Nelson, another guy. Because Jerron Brown, I was high on him. Or sorry, not Jerron Brown. Oh, the wrong Brown. John Brown. I was high on him going into this season. It sounded like he was healthy and they'd figured all the stuff out. Now it's not, and they need a wide receiver too there. And I think JJ Nelson, he's fast. He's a good complement, I think, to Larry Fitzgerald. So if the good Brown or the injured Brown stays injured, then I think JJ Nelson could be a really sneaky $1 guy that literally has like RB wide receiver, 20 to 15 even upside in that offense.
Right. So for me, I think if you're going to run the strategy of big name RB, big name wide receiver, you want a big name number 1. I think there's a lot of money to be made or saved with guys like Decker. I think Cole Beasley at a couple of bucks is going to get you numbers that are going to exceed the $2 value. I love the Kenny Britt. I even look at, you got the Thielens, Mike Wallace, because they're going to throw the football around there. I mean, there's names for
I forgot Thielen.
Yeah,
he's on my list.
Neither of you said Thielen, which I was surprised about.
I like Thielen, man.
You know, those guys that I said Decker, he'd be a guy. You know, best ball, you could look at it. Taylor Gabriel, those guys too. Robert Woods could catch a lot of balls still, even with in a PPR league at under $1. So, but I mean under $1, like you can bid under $1. But I think that there's a sweet little range in there at about $3 to $6 that you can make a lot of hay.
Well, here's my question though, because I agree. But in that range, are you drafting these guys as wide receiver 3s? Because like most of our leagues, we start 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, it's flex.
I hate leagues that don't.
I'm flexing here. I'm thinking
because that's where I debate. Like, and this is the trade-off, right? If like you go with a more expensive running back and as your RB1, then these are the concessions you got to make. I mean,
yeah.
Do you put one of these guys as wide receiver 3?
My personal strategy, like in my head today, is I'm going to go wide receiver heavy, and then I'll take 1 or 2 of these guys to sit on my bench, knowing that if I've got an injury, and Adam Thielen or Ted Ginn could fill the void if I needed it. You know, I'm not going to find that same replacement on the waiver wire, I don't think. But I mean, at the same time, if you're going to take Lev Bell and AJ Green, you might have to play one of these guys as your wide receiver 3, and so you need the roster construction again. A couple of high floor guys, because these guys are the high ceilings, right? So I don't know does that make sense?
I think it totally does.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. Blister didn't hear one.
No, I listened to everything.
Do you guys want to take a look at some tight ends, Blister? Again, if we're going to look really as far as the value indicator right now, it's just Jordan Reed. And I mean, tight ends should be fairly simple because most of them are $1 or $2. But who are some guys at $1 or $2 you're targeting, Blister?
Well, I like Jack Doyle if Andrew Luck gets healthier. But then after that, I mean, Jason Witten's probably still going to get a few end zone looks and stuff like that. I just have a hard time depending on him. And Antonio Gates, another older guy that's still going to get his share and probably score a few touchdowns for you. Kobe Fleener has a good strength of schedule. He was pretty disappointing last year. Hopefully this year he can make another leap. But other guys that you can really take a flyer on, Julius Thomas in Miami scored a touchdown tonight. Austin Hooper in Atlanta, I think. Those are a couple names that, they might even go undrafted in your league. Or if you're looking for a backup tight end, which I don't know if you should be, but those are guys that have potential. Like I think with Austin Hooper, we're always waiting for Tony Gonzalez to show up again and in that offense, and that's not happening. But he has talent, and he could, he could make a next step forward. And Julius Thomas, that's what that offense in Miami could use, a guy like him, and especially around the red zone. So they have potential that they could, be fantasy impactful. But honestly, I don't think a lot of them will even get drafted in your standard 12 team start one tight end league. You probably don't even need to draft those guys. Other guys, like I don't trust Ebron at all. And the rest of the guys above Ebron pretty much are going to go for $5 or $6. Yeah.
Slim, what about you, tight ends?
Blister, a lot of his names are kind of my names. I think there are a lot of people's names. Like I really do like Austin Hooper.
Me too.
I just think there's a very good chance that he is going to continue to develop. And I just think that there's a lot more targets to be had for him in that offense too. I mean, it's a pretty prolific offense, and you want tight ends in those offenses, and I'm Jason Witten's another guy like
he can catch a football.
Yeah, I mean, and he's young. I mean, he had some good production in college. Like he's got a lot of things to like. It's a hard position to learn. Anybody who thinks a tight end just comes in and just starts playing right away it just doesn't happen. So to me, he's following a pretty good kind of career trajectory so far. I don't think it's to be down on. I'd love to see him take this next step, and I think he's got a good chance to. But yeah, Witten's another guy. I just, I don't know, man. He's freaking angeless, man. Like, and he's not gonna. He's got a very I don't want to say very low ceiling. He's got a low ceiling, but he's got a high floor.
Right.
So if you're going cheap, like going for a dollar guy, you've obviously spent your money on other things. You want not, fairly consistent production. I think he'll be consistent. He's going to get targets and, he's not going to catch a dozen touchdowns or anything like that, but he'll rack up 4 or 5 catches in a game. And we saw last year a couple times with defenses play the Cowboys a certain way. Dak has no problem just dumping off to Witten time after time after time. And there'll be that odd game where he probably gets 12 targets. So, a lot of those kinds of guys, if you want to go really deep, it sounds kind of cliche because I feel like I've been on this bandwagon for a couple of years, but I like ASJ this year.
Too. I was just gonna
yes, the offense is going to be trash. The quarterback play is probably going to be really trash. But somebody's going to catch some passes there. So why not him? He could very well be the most talented receiver on that team. He was super talented in college. Clearly he had some issues as a pro. It sounds like he's got it cleaned up, went into rehab and he's lost a lot of weight and devoted himself, to fitness and stuff again, and got rid of a lot of the bad things he was doing in his life in terms of substance abuse and things like that. So, those are all good signs. A healthy guy that is very athletic. We typically kind of like those kinds of profiles. So why can't he, I'm not going to say he's going to be like the tight end 3 or anything this year, but if you're going super cheap and want to take a flyer for essentially free and with the chance that you're just going to cut him anyways in a couple weeks, then go ahead and take him. So yeah, that's kind of it for tight end. There's a lot of dollar guys there.
A lot of dollar guys, and we've said it before, the 8 through 18 are a crapshoot. You never know. You don't know what's happening there. So what about DST, Slim? I'm just kidding. Kickers, who's a value kicker?
Suck it.
I totally agree with you, and I think I already gave my message on how to draft the DST. So
I thought it was eloquent too. I really liked it.
Thank you. Thanks. So anyways, those are some value guys heading into your draft for this weekend or next weekend. Well, obviously we're going to stay at it, but this is a big weekend for us in particular. So we've been doing a lot of work personally trying to get ready for it. So we've shared with you that content. Hopefully the other 9 guys in our league don't listen to this podcast to get an idea. But you know what? Go ahead. Price and force a dollar guy. Bid him up to $2. I got another one. I think it'll be okay.
Oh, shots fired, Bex coming out. Come at me, bro.
Hey, just to give you a quick recap, I'm in this Data Force league right now. I only got 2 guys. I got Julio for 49 and AJ Green for 46. And so now I'm kind of sitting, and that's where I'm at right now. Some good values just to let you guys know out there. I thought DeAndre Hopkins at 29 was a decent pickup. I did see, who else I see that was a reasonable pickup? Dez at 29 was pretty good. JJ at 36 is a nice price. But I did see Zeke go for 60 and David Johnson also for 60. Thoughts? That's for the fences, right?
Buddy.
No, I didn't.
That I'm not that bold, but yeah,
that's swinging for the fences.
It is.
Yeah, but it's kind of a fun little league so far. Just kind of watching it go. Well, I'm not sitting in meetings, Buster, looking at my phone.
Yeah.
With a hoverer. Yeah. There was a hoverer. Did you notice the hoverer? There was some hovering. Anyways. Okay, so that's value, guys. If you're heading into your auction this weekend, don't forget, if you want to read a bunch of articles on auction and you want our sheets, head to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com. Become a member, $14.95. If you're just crunching numbers right now and are looking for the spreadsheets, click on the orange button on the website, become a patron. $5 smash will get you our sheets. Don't forget to download them using the file menu. It's right there, so that I don't have to reshare it with you or any of those types of things. That'll help me so that I can spend time on my draft prep. You can email us with long-winded questions at 140 characters. Won't do it. It's footballauctioneer@gmail.com. And Slim still crushes the Twitter @fantasyauction. Anything else to add, guys, heading into the busy weekend?
No. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to the draft. Hopefully the weather cooperates for our golf game, and
yes,
yeah, it should be good.
Slim, any trash talk for BWW and the well, you can't have your room then. You want to?
Yeah, that's Bush League, so we're gonna have to leave a message when we leave there. Something to make that extra 20 worthwhile. I love
that the lawyer is interested in getting involved. I thought that's pretty good.
Then he talked to a good lawyer. Thank God.
Well, at least he could put us in touch with somebody.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna have like Black or somebody take a big old dump in a toilet or something before we go and plug it, or just leave it or whatever. Maybe we'll flood the bathroom or something.
Yes. Just do a stack in there.
There you go.
Like a wing bowl on the Stern. They talk about that wing bowl that they just pile on, like the over the toilet seat pile.
Take a flat screen off the wall.
That's what I was thinking too.
Go big.
Yeah, I thought we paid for that.
Hey, look over there.
Well, last year I think I ate a couple pounds of wings, and then a couple hours later, actually, then ate a Sammy and some fries, and then
skillet at Perkins.
Yeah, and then a skillet at Perkins. Then maybe I'll go back and take the dump. So it was a 3-meal night, maybe a 3-meal dump after.
Yeah. Last year, wasn't it only about $35 or $40 for the whole time we were there? I couldn't believe it. Two suppers and eight hours of drinks. Suppers
like, what? And way too many tap beers. But yeah, so hopefully that stays the same this year. That is sweet. Anyways.
Yeah.
Are you my roommate, Bucket?
We haven't.
Were you my roommate last year?
I think I was your roommate last year.
Yeah. Sure.
You guys pick. I'm not assigning anything. It's not hockey.
It's not part of your duties and responsibilities as a commissioner to room assignments?
We're all middle-aged men going down. We pick our own roommates. I'm not worried about feelings getting hurt if you shaft somebody. Greg maybe wants to go with one of you guys and doesn't get in. And
you know what? I was just looking at vehicles at the drive blister and thought the brothers would probably shack up and hold each other's hands. And
we have a 5-pack, I think, though, in our vehicle. So,
is there?
Who do you got?
We got a van, though, man. It's gonna be.
Yeah,
van.
I'm easy.
Oh yeah, we're taking Gooch's van.
It's gonna be about 3 in the morning. I don't really, as long as there's an empty bed. Yeah. I still got a great picture of C from last year. In the morning, trying to push him out of bed. It's a great pic. I'll have to pull that out. Maybe I'll make it the if I can find it. Maybe I'll make it the picture for this post for the show notes. Draft prep, and then just him sleeping in bed. That would be good. Would that be good, or would that hurt? Would that be?
Sounds
Should
good.
I ask for permission?
I don't know. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, okay. Enough. We do enough banter to front end that no one's. Well, actually, we still have 2 viewers. I don't know if it's the Road Warrior and Mahoney are still listening, but anyways, guys, good stuff. Blister, I will be texting you tomorrow night to keep you in the loop as what's going on in our inaugural EBL draft. And
6:30.
6:30 start. 6:30 local.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. And Slim, I will see you at a liquor store on Saturday morning.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. And for the rest of you, I'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.